Her Journey to Healing, Reaching Women with a Desperate Cry is an 8-week Zoom seminar in which Kamala and Winston help women to start living their best life by rediscovering the image of God in their life. Kamala, a licensed marriage and family therapist, joins her husband of 16 years, an ordained pastor, to marry the clinical and the spiritual. You will begin living your best life filled with love, joy, and peace. Register at kwministries.net for this life-changing seminar.
If you go around the world right now, one of the things that you'll hear people talking about is burnout.
Yep.
A real thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is arguing that burnout is a real phenomenon that's happening to a lot of us. And when we're talking about burnout, we're not talking about just, I'm regular tired. We're talking about what we've been talking about since the beginning of the module. I am emotionally, mentally, physically exhausted.
Come on, let me ask you a quick question. Do you realize, have you guys heard the amount of people that's walking off of their job in the United States?
Absolutely.
All right.
And so the interesting thing, and I'm glad you said that, because the interesting thing is, when we talk about burnout, people often associate, I can only be burnt out of work. But it's not true. As we've been talking about, life. I can be burnt out on life. I can be burnt out in my relationship. I can be burnt out as a parent. I can be burnt out in all kinds of different ways. So we're talking about exhaustion. We're talking about the fact that we don't have what we need.
You and I were created to be stewards, to take care of God's planet, not to till, not to work, not to kill ourselves. I challenge you, you're not here to provide roof and clothes and food. That's not what you're here for. As a matter of fact, Jesus in Matthew chapter 6 says, the pagans do that. Jesus says non-believers chase after clothes and food. And Jesus says your heavenly Father knows you need that stuff. And Jesus says, take a break. Look at the birds of the sky. Look at the lily of the valley. Jesus said, look at them, how beautiful they are. They don't go shopping. And Jesus says, if your daddy can take care of the lily that's here today and gone tomorrow, the bird that's in the sky today and fall out tomorrow, how much more will your heavenly Father give to you to take care of your needs? Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monday Night Live with KW. Because if it's Monday night,
You're live with KW.
and sometimes Jay.
The jelly is missing tonight, guys.
Jay is out on vacation, having
fun with his boo-tang. If Pastor Gibson or Sister Gibson are watching, enjoy yourselves. We miss you and we love you. Kamala.
We are only halfway salty that you're not here, but it's okay.
It's more Fox calling the grapes sour.
Sour grapes.
Good night, Dad. Good to see you. Good night, Mr. Armstrong. Peter, welcome. Thank you so very much for being here. We're grateful. It's Monday night.
It absolutely is, which means we're doing something special.
We are
doing?
celebrating. What are you celebrating tonight, Kamala?
It's Christmas.
Uh-oh.
Right? I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it's the holiday season. And I am excited because, not only is it Christmas, it's going to be my birthday soon. Okay, so it's yours as well. Fine, we got to share. But I am excited about that as well. What about you? What are you celebrating?
The other day I took a picture of our Christmas tree and you laughed at me.
Oh my gosh.
Because our Christmas tree is so raggedy and old
and also it was bare at the time.
And
so
bare,
oh my gosh.
And I was just excited about our Christmas tree. Listen, I was just really, really excited. I'm celebrating our Christmas tree tonight. I don't care how raggedy it is. I don't care how busted it is.
It's ours.
It's filled with love. It's filled with joy. It's filled with peace. Yeah. And I'm kind of in the mood to celebrate Christmas myself tonight.
I see. You know what? I do have something else to celebrate.
What do you celebrate?
Thank you. I'm celebrating that my mom gets to visit.
Yes. I am celebrating that my mother-in-law is here. So often when we talk about mother-in-laws, it's with disdain or it's with. But I can honestly say I love my in-laws. I love my father-in-law, Brother Glenn, who's watching right now, actually. And I love my mother-in-law, who will be coming on sometime soon if she's not watching already.
I know, right?
So I'm excited. So I think we're celebrating all the same stuff tonight.
Yes, we
Question is, what are you celebrating tonight? Would you share with us in the chat what you're celebrating? We want to know what have you all excited on this Monday night. We know Mondays can be tough.
They can be.
But we want to be intentional.
Absolutely.
About finding something to celebrate.
And that is why we're inviting you in this experience of celebration with us. Because we know.
So what are you celebrating? Yes. Philetta, if you're on our page, I'm looking out just for you down here tonight. Because I'm not missing a comment from you ever again. By God's grace.
Yeah.
Besides celebrating Monday, what else do we do here on a Monday night? Baby?
Keeping shop, y'all.
Keeping shop.
I say this every week. I am not ashamed. I will say it every single week. This is the time for my shameless plug. I'm going to need you to go over to www.kwministries.net/shop because guess what? It's Christmas. And what better way to spend your last minute shopping? KW got you. But that's not the
Yes, we have some amazing gifts there. You can get our cup, which will be perfect for this cold night with some hot chocolate. Mm-hmm. It would be really, really nice to enjoy some hot chocolate outside of our KW Ministries cup. Now, our tote bag that's more for springtime, though, right?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, it's there. The tote bag is there. And of course, you don't want to miss our daughter's book. I'm really, more than anything I've written, more than anything you've written, I'm really excited about hers.
Yeah.
My Journey to Healing. She talks about her journey with Crohn's disease. And I like when we talk about it with her now, because it was her 13-year-old self.
Yeah.
And she was like, look what my little 13-year-old self was thinking.
She did good.
She did real good. So please head over to www.kwministries.net/shop.
What else do we do on a Monday night?
We talk to people. We get to hear other people's journey, other people's stories, where people come from. We get to hear other people's desperate cry. You see, KW Ministries was born out of our own pain, out of our own, here is a good word for tonight, trauma.
Right.
Out of our own issues, KW Ministries came alive. And ever since, we've been sitting down with people, they've told us their stories. And Kamala, the theme that has run through every single story we have heard is people need people.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited about our guest tonight.
Let me tell you a little bit about her as she's getting ready to join us in studio.
All right.
We are welcoming to the stage Ebony A. Harris. She is the founder of Empowering Lives Institute, LLC, which is a transformative organization dedicated to helping women take control of their lives by fostering strength and confidence. She specializes in the mental, emotional, spiritual development of women, and utilizes techniques of inner healing and soul care to guide her clients toward profound personal growth. This is awesome, guys. We're not done yet. Hold on, we're not done yet. This is amazing stuff. Ebony is a speaker, author, mental health strategist, and coach. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to her engagements. Professionally, she is a registered nurse with over a decade and a half of experience in the mental health field. Guys, we're in for a treat tonight. Her extensive career as a mental health nurse, coupled with her rigorous training in inner healing and overcoming her own personal traumas, provides a solid foundation for her, get this, guys, life's work. Ebony is not here to just talk about something she learned. She's here to talk about her life. And so we are so excited. Her passionate speaking engagements carry a powerful message of healing and hope. So I'm hoping that you'll tell us a little bit about how we can hear from her in other contexts after this. Message of hope and healing for those affected by mental illness and trauma. She draws on her professional expertise and personal journey of overcoming multiple traumas to deeply connect with her audience. She believes her life's purpose is to heal and deliver a hurting generation. I want you to hear her mission for such a time as this.
Oh, wow. That is so beautiful. Ebony, thank you so very much for being here with us tonight. And you have to go through the question. Peter said she's amazing. Somebody's cheering you on, Ebony. So, but you have to go through the question. What are you celebrating on this Monday night, Ebony?
What am I celebrating on this Monday night? I am celebrating life. Life. A month ago, my son was in a car accident. My son, my grandson, and my grandson's mother was in an accident.
Hold on. You have a grandson?
I know. My genes are really good,
Oh,
right?
man. That wasn't like you're 16 years old up in the speech talking about some grandson.
I know. But yes, I do have a grandson. Actually, a couple of grandchildren. My husband is 6 years my elder, so but yeah, so they were in an accident, and so today everyone didn't make it out of the accident alive, but I'm grateful today that my son and my grandson did. So I'm celebrating life today.
Absolutely. That is a very meaningful celebration.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember who said it. Was it somebody on our program or somebody at church said that it was here. Somebody was saying they were celebrating that they loved life now. And that's what that reminded me of just now.
Yeah.
Is that she's not just celebrating having life,
Yeah.
but the meaningfulness of life
itself
when put against the backdrop of what could have been.
Yeah.
And so we're celebrating life with you tonight, Ebony.
Yes.
All right.
Ebony, let's start. I'm going to dive right in. Could you define trauma for us?
So for me, I like to keep everything in its simplest context because the audiences and people that I work with, they don't need our medical jargon and all of that stuff that makes the conversation so complex. So for me, trauma is a deeply disturbing negative experience that deeply impacts your life.
All right, so Ebony, we're about to dive in, but before we do, let me let you laugh one more time because Delroy Thomas, Elder Thomas, just said, "Grandson, you don't look like anybody, Grandma." That's what I told her.
I like y'all. I like
Elder Thomas is what I just told her. I just told her, "Grandma, what?" Okay, all right, let's start over. Delroy, Virgin, distract people. All right, let's start over.
Yeah.
So we're going to define trauma again.
Yeah.
So give it to us again.
And we're going to start from there.
Yes. So trauma for me is any deeply disturbing negative experience that disrupts or deeply affects the way that you do life.
I like that.
I do. I think it's a very inclusive definition. You're right. We don't need all the fancy words. Ebony, how would you say that you got started on this journey of being so passionate about this trauma that we're trying to define right now?
You know what's so funny is when I was in nursing school, mental health was never on my radar. I was scared of them people,
Mm-hmm.
because when we grow up, when we think of mental health, we think of the extremes, the psychotic, the aggressive. So mental health was never. I wanted to be a NICU nurse. I had a premature child, so I was like, I'm gonna go work at NICU. And long story short of it, I used to be a fighter. I had a lot of traumas in my background. So the things that I didn't deal with showed up in my expression in doing life. So I used to fight, y'all. I was a fighter. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had a lot of charges because of that. And so when I got into nursing school, I was on probation and I had to get off probation and deal with a lot of stuff. And when I graduated, I initially went to go work. Like when you graduate nurse school, they say, oh, go work in med surg. That's the place to start for all nurses. You need a good foundation. And because of my background and what I had at the board for all the fighting I did, the hospital that I was hired at rescinded their offer to hire me because of my background. They was like, well, get off of probation and then come back when you get off probation with the board. And I
Mm-hmm.
was in the beauty salon crying to my beautician. I'm like, I went to school and I can't find a job. And um, another nurse was in there and she said, hey, go to Brentwood. They typically hire nurses with stuff on their background. And little did I know, I went to Brentwood and it has been the best place for me. But even in that, I did not know my assignment to trauma. I just
Mm.
thought like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm here, and it was a favored opportunity because it was the hand of God on it. But going and working in the different areas and the places that I've worked, I ended up being in a management position, and I just began to see things at a different level. And my heart began to get grieved because I would see certain experiences and certain backgrounds, and I'm like, this hospitalization isn't enough to deal
Mm-hmm.
with traumatic experiences. The medicine is good, but it's not enough. And so I went to a conference actually, and on my way back from the conference, I can remember this keenly. I was looking out the window, and I never look out the windows because I'm kind of scared of heights a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
was looking out the window, and I heard the Holy Spirit say, "I've graced you for trauma."
Whew.
And I was heard it, and I kind of went again. He said it again. He said, "I have graced you for trauma." And the words that he spoke, it sat on me. And I
Mm.
really began to just think about what he was saying. And my heart just began, and he made my heart, the burden of my heart, have understanding to me because I was always the one that felt people so deeply. I was always the one that was wanting to help people work through things. I was, just had that like, let's just work through these things and not even understanding. And so my journey to just get into the trauma was my own personal trauma. The Lord sent me into a place where I had to see, because when he sent me into the hospital, he said, I need you to see some things that you haven't seen. And I need you to see and understand people in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Still didn't fully understand what he was saying until he told me I was graced for trauma. Then I started the journey then.
Mm.
So I want to back up because you just dropped a whole bunch of bombs on us, and
Mhm.
and here we got to unpack everything.
Mhm.
Um, so you're fighting. We heard that, okay? So you don't
Mhm.
look like a grandma, you don't look like a fighter, but okay. Um, and your fighting comes out of your own traumatic experiences.
Mhm.
Do you want to explore some of that with us a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I had a lot of adverse life events. Had some sexual abuse. Grew up in a very violent household where we had a gang and they would do drive-bys on our house. And I had a split raised with a single mother. So we had a whole bunch of adverse life events happening in life. And in our household and our culture, we
Mm-hmm.
don't really deal with those things. We don't know how to navigate through those things. We don't know. So as a child, you learn how to cope the best way you know how. You learn coping mechanisms, whether they're healthy or unhealthy. You just learn how to deal with life the best way you know how to. And so because of that, I became a really angry and defensive young lady. I mean, I had to get you before you got me. So if I felt threatened in any kind of way, if my security felt threatened in any kind of way, I would fight. Um, I mean, it was just, but it was what I had not dealt with and didn't know how to work through. So everything made me feel defensive. Everything made me feel like I was under attack, you know. So I used to fight.
So,
Yeah.
Ebony, here's what I'd like for you to do here. I want for you to talk to that child
Hmm.
who is in that kind of environment right now.
Hmm.
I want for you to talk to that child. And then I want for you to talk to that adult whose inner child and the adult have not really met yet. And so they have not reconciled, they have not
Hmm.
caught up.
Hmm.
And could you first talk to the child who,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, they're watching right now, and
Hmm.
they're living in that kind of unfair, hostile environment? Can you breathe some hope into them? And then could you talk to that adult who has not reconciled with that childhood experience and they're still fighting in different
Yeah.
ways? They're not keeping jobs, they're not keeping
Hmm.
relationships. Could you talk to those people first?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up a little nugget because I part of my heart is that house. Because sometimes, you know, in our background, working in the facilities and hospitals, we try to do a holistic thing and treat the family and yada, but it's only so much that we can do. And I really have a heart to go out and just teach the parents. This is what trauma looks like. This is how it affects the way that your child does life, or how it affects how you do life, mom, dad, the way that you're raising your children, your experiences. This is how it has altered some of the things you do, and just begin to teach at the household level. Because my heart believes that if we can heal the houses, then we can heal the communities. And if we can heal the communities, then we can heal the cities. And we can heal the cities, then we can heal the nation. But it first starts at a table conversation, maybe pulling the parents together and say, hey, let's talk about this, or the children. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's where my kind of stepping over into in this next season. But yes, I would say to the child, it's not your fault.
Hmm.
It's not your fault. What you've experienced, what you've gone through, the difficulties with your parents, the difficulties in the poor condition that you're living in is not your fault. The abuse, the your mother's or your father's frustration, their inability to be there for you, to be what you need, is not that they don't love you, it's that they're doing the best that they can. They're doing the best that they can. So it's not your fault. You're not worthless. You're not unloved. You're not invaluable. You're
Hmm.
extremely valuable. You
Hmm.
have extreme significance here in the earth. And what you're going through, it won't be like this always. It won't be like this always.
Yeah.
Um, I speak strength to that child. I speak love and comfort. And though your parents may not see you, there is a God who does see you. The God sees you, and He is there. Lean into Him even at a young age, even though you may not understand it all. He is there. He is there. And to the parent, God sees you too. He sees and He understands your brokenness. He understands your frustration of wanting to change and wanting to be something different and wanting to do life different, but finding yourself in the same cycles over and over again. He sees your heart in wanting to do something different and be something different, to be a different parent to your child. He sees that. He knows that, and he sees how you struggle. He sees the fear that you're experiencing and afraid to be anything different than who you are, but you hate who you are. God sees you, and it's not too late for you to change. There's nothing that you have experienced that you cannot overcome. Now, it may take some work. It may take you having to connect to the right people in the right places to reprogram and retrain some things that you've experienced, but it's not too late for you. God sees you. He wants to heal you. He wants to make you whole. He wants to make you free from the experiences that you've experienced as a child, not only so that you want um continue to maybe raise your children in that fashion, but so you can help other people. There's still great things on the inside of you. You're still extremely valuable. You have great value and significance. There's a great thing for you to do here in this earth, and you don't have to do it in the condition you're in. You don't have to live and function and operate in relationships, in your thinking, in the night hour, in the quiet places, in the recesses of your heart. You don't have to feel alone in a room full of thousands of people, or a couple of people. You don't have to feel alone. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to feel insignificant or unvalued. You are very worthy, and you're needed, and you're necessary, and you're tremendously loved. So get the help that you need. You're not by yourself. You're not by yourself.
Wow. And quick break?
Yes, yes, yes.
Quick break. We'll be right back.
God is patient. God is kind. God is long-suffering. God never fails. God always hopes. God always trusts. God always perseveres. God doesn't envy. God doesn't boast. God doesn't seek his own, but is always seeking what's best for you. God rejoices in the truth.
That's right.
God doesn't define love. God demonstrates love.
Peter said, I feel healing in the atmosphere. And I have to agree. As you ministered just now, I felt my own inner child going, oh, we are valuable. Oh,
Just soaking it in, right?
I was just like, he's done. Oh, come on. I want more. I want more. Thank you so much for letting God use you just now.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you something, Eve. Now you talked about, you started us off with this great definition of trauma, something that we could all appreciate and understand. Now, how do I know, or how do people in my life know? What kind of signs can tell you that somebody has been traumatized? I think that's where I want to
operating out of trauma.
That they're operating out of trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing that trauma does, it affects the way we do relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, and relationship with God. Anytime you see someone having difficulty in any of those three relational areas, is a key sign that they're struggling, that they've had some type of event in their life that's disrupted the way that they do life, right? When I look at children, typically when you see a marked change in personality, I just wish when I was younger that my mother understood that my behaviors and my significant change in behaviors, it wasn't because I was hormonal or coming into, you know, being a fast tail girl, or, that pre-adolescent phase and rebellion, that my anger, my aggression, my acting out was part of what I had experienced, but I had not yet talked about. So you'll see changes in behavior. They may recluse when they were naturally vibrant, outgoing children. You may see them more irritable and angry and acting out. If there's a sexual trauma, sometimes you may see sexual promiscuous behaviors. I became extremely promiscuous in my teen years, because of the things that I had experienced. And oftentimes, sometime in our community, it's labeled as a fast tail girl, but nobody's stopping and saying, wait, let's look at this a little bit, because this not the Ebony that we know. She wasn't like this. Sometimes you'll see with children having nightmares or begin bedwetting when they once wasn't a bedwetter. They'll just begin to bedwet and have nightmares, afraid to be alone, afraid to be with the lights off. You'll have those different types of things. They start to be hyper vigilant, and they startle easily where they once didn't used to startle. Because we had drive-bys on our house and we would sleep on the floor at night, I became hyper vigilant. You could drop something. Even now, I have to be just mindful as I'm continuing to work through and maintain my healing. To, just be, sometimes I have to remind myself, wait, you're safe, Ebony. You're not that little girl that was having the drive-bys and things happening in your house. So you'll see those type of things in adults. Like I said, you may see depression, severe depression. You may see some of those same things in adults that you may see in children, just depending on when that traumatic experience happened in their life. You may see them be angry or irritable or aggressive. I was very aggressive. That
Mm-hmm.
aggression, you know, it was my defense. I would protect me before I protected you because I wasn't protected often as a child. So I thought. And so I had to learn to protect myself by fighting and these aggressive behaviors. You know, if you look into the jail and you look at some of the young men that's in the communities that's doing a lot of the things, I wonder, you know, how many of them have unresolved traumas that they have not discussed or they have not dealt with or no ones have identified. And now they begin to take on identity, because one of the traumatic experiences that sometimes we don't think about is childhood neglect and
Mm-hmm.
abandonment. And abandonment and neglect doesn't mean that the parent wasn't in the house all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's just so much there.
Go for it.
Because I need for you in a second to talk to some of those young men. You're gonna minister all night tonight. You're gonna work tonight. But when when and how did you recognize that you were living out of your trauma?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it until my 20s. Part of me going to the facility that I work at was not only to see people, but to see myself. Because when we're experiencing these things, we think that we're the only ones that have gone through them,
Mm-hmm.
or the people that's in our circle, my brothers and sisters who experience some of those life experiences with me, that in my reality, we were the only ones that experienced it. Right. And I had a very close best friend who was experiencing extreme abuse at her house. And she never talked about hers, I never talked about mine. And so in our minds, and because the type of atmosphere we grew up at home, dysfunction became norm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't see anything wrong with fighting. I didn't see anything wrong with me getting you before you get me. I didn't see anything wrong with not following the things that I wanted to pursue and being confident and having that esteem in myself and self-worth, that I knew that I was valuable and I had something valuable to add. I didn't know that having my own identity was a normal thing. I thought that to be accepted, because I dealt with so much rejection and things in the past, that I had to become like everyone around me. So I didn't begin to realize these things until I got into my 20s. I grew up in church, but it was when my relationship with God became personal to me,
Mm-hmm.
and when He began to show me Himself and begin to show me in the mirror of the Word, for one. And then after realizing, like, wait, I'm still struggling with these things that Jesus died to help me to overcome. Why am I here still? And He began to point me back to trauma. And so that's how I just began to, one, work in the facility. I am seeing that. Two, my relationship with God, and then in the Word, and then He just began to just show me things, and I just began to study upon these things. So
Yeah. Ebony, is this easy work?
no, I mean, yes, it's the easiest work ever. Absolutely not. You know, because I tell people, and I tell individuals that I work with, talk to, if you're 50 years old, and I'm amazed at when I go speak or when I'm talking to individuals come across the past, how many our older generation
Mm-hmm.
is still dealing with the effects of the things they've gone through, because their culture was, you don't talk about it. What happens in this house stays in this house, and we don't
Mm-hmm.
deal with anything. And so they're living such fragmented lives at the best that they can, but so fragmented for so many years. But no, it's not ever easy work. If you're 50 years old, when you want to start dealing with your stuff, you have 50 years of unprogramming, reprogramming that you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so don't think that this work is going to be overnight. Don't think that, even, and I kind of said it earlier, even in areas that I have worked to overcome through therapy, through the work of Christ, through the word, through accepting the completed work of Christ, I still have to work to maintain that
Mm-hmm.
work,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so that's a part that sometimes we neglect. Like when we do the work with maybe a therapist and our pastors and Holy Spirit and things like that, we like, oh, I'm good. No, now you have to work to maintain. You
Yeah.
have to work to maintain. So it's not an easy work, but it's a very intentional work, and a work that can be accomplished if we remain intentional about it.
I want to ask you about working to maintain, but before we go to working with men,
let me start writing this stuff down. Yes.
Before we go to that one, I want to circle back to something that you said 2 times in 2 different ways. You talked about that culture of silence, where we feel like I'm the only one, or I'm not supposed to talk about this. Can you talk to us about the importance of being able to talk about what we have been through, and why is that so important?
And talk to those of us, talk to parents, talk to churches about the importance, and Annika, here's where you put it on the screen by herself, about the importance of providing those safe spaces where people can talk. And also add to that, how do I, as the victim, create those safe space? How do I scream, listen to me and listen to me now? How do I do that?
So wait, let's go back through the questions. You came about the silent culture. Yes. So wait, what was your question in regards to it? Because I want to answer it directly.
Just the importance of not maintaining that silence and why that's so important.
Yes, you know what we tend to do sometimes, and we do it to our children, in our culture, I've noticed more than other cultures, is we say, "Shut up and sit down and shut up," or we make them wait or mute their voices in, this grown folks conversation, which it is, right? Or don't talk back to me. I said this, and you just gotta listen, right? We do that to our children and not realizing that we're taking their voice away from them in some ways, right? Because there's a healthy respect and things like that, right? And when we often shut our children down from healthily expressing themselves, we find subconsciously what they begin to take on is that what I have to say is not important. And so we think that that will just stay with when I need to talk about things that I need to express. But it also channels over into things that has happened to me that I need to express, that I may feel that it's not important for me to say it to you. And so we have to be very careful as parents to maintain that fine balance between that parental respect and making sure that we're allowing our children to know that they're valued and that their voice has value.
And should we not be willing to give up that respect piece to make sure that, for example, you'll hear people talk about white kids versus black kids, how white kids can talk back to their parents. Could it be that they're more interested in the mental health of their children versus the respect piece?
And I think that's the biggest part of the cultural difference. I don't think we need to lay it aside completely.
No.
Because sometimes never mind.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Oh, we lay it down completely. Because sometimes on our counterculture, they lay it down completely and but I think as a healed parent, I know that when my child is screaming or expressing themselves in a way that I may not agree with, that is not towards me, but it's their way to release, right? And I need to allow them in that moment full expression. If it's not hurting me, hurting themselves, or hurting someone else, right? And then after they get it out and after they express, because we all need to be heard.
Yes.
Right? We all want to feel validated. We want to all feel seen. We all want to feel heard and loved. And so
we all need to be heard.
Yeah. So we need to allow those children. But I think sometimes the parents aren't healed.
Right.
They aren't healed. So it's difficult for them because that screaming may trigger them. And their inner child says, wait, I got to protect myself. Wait, I got to protect myself. And it's their child, like their inner child is saying to their child, I got to protect myself, right? So if they're not healed, it's going to be difficult for parents to allow children to respect themselves and to know that the child isn't disrespecting them, but they are expressing themselves to feel validated and heard. But that going back to that mute culture, it has created generations of trauma. in bloodlines and families, because granny didn't say, great granny didn't say. And you have this perpetual behavior and spirit that's continuing down through lineages because, well, when granny didn't say, and whomever happened to mama, then mama didn't say, now I'm coming around and then I'm not saying because I don't know that it's okay to say anything. Or if I say something to mom, mom don't know how to deal with it because she
Yes.
didn't deal with her stuff, right? Or we sweep it under the rug and say, okay, I'm gonna deal with it, because the worst thing a child can feel is to come to the parent, the people who are supposed to provide physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual safety for me, and I tell you that my safety was violated and you did not do anything to protect it. Or you see, and so now you have a child that may have been quiet or went to express themselves to the parent, and then the parent in their traumatic state couldn't provide what was needed to this child to help them heal and to recover. So it's okay to speak up. It's okay. Now, granted, sometimes because we know sexual abuse, particularly, there's a very high percentage that happens in families. So sometimes me talking about it means that I'm talking about my uncle. I'm talking about my cousin. I'm talking about my granddaddy or my daddy. I'm talking about my mama's boyfriend who she loved, who's finally paying the bills, but he's sleeping with me every night. And so that's a part of the thing that we have to deal with, because um, the child's thinking, and when we're children, what do? When they break up and all this happens, and mama can't pay the bills because now we're a single household, this was my fault. I should have just shut up and not said anything. Um, but on the flip side, we have to begin to, in those situations, now you have a child that was sexually abused. This child begins to speak to the mom, the parent, or whomever about it. There's a split in the household now. Now you have a lateral trauma. The child's experienced the trauma. The mama's experienced two traumas, because I have a child that's traumatized, and now I'm, having to deal with that as a parent. Because how did I let this happen to my child by somebody? And now I'm having to deal with a broken household as well. So now I have two things I'm having to juggle within myself while trying to help this child. So did you ask me a question earlier, like, is this work easy? No,
No.
it's not.
So Ebony, I want again. Let me write this down again, because I want for you to talk to the parent whose child is talking to them and how they should respond. But before we go there, I want for you to address those of us who are take caring for people, teachers and pastors and counselors, and how important is it that we create safe spaces for victims, for traumatized people to speak out, and how important is it for traumatized people to say, I'm speaking, whether you're listening or not, I'm speaking. And how the two work together?
So I don't think I need to tell the counselors and therapists that.
Right.
You know who needs to hear that most? Two people that's high on my priority list that needs to hear that the most is parents and
The church.
the church.
Yes.
The church. I was gonna find a nice way to say it,
No.
but the church.
Yes.
The church. Those are the two people who need to hear that the most, is that you have to create space. We are bringing people into the kingdom of God, to a completed work of Christ, that they have to adopt this mindset, all of these things, right? You as the clerk, we as the church, we have to know fully what we're dealing with, right? Yes, some things are demonically influenced, right? Yes, some things are spiritually influenced, right? But some things are some of the experiences that we have had that we have to learn to work through. And if we as the clergy don't understand that, then we're frustrated with people who keep cycling and doing different things that we don't understand, or having a relationship, or we have a church full of traumatized people because we're bringing people out from the world into the church, and we're trying to get them into, this complete work of Christ and to their highest self, and to doing the things that God has called them to. But even some of the people in the pulpit, they're broken and they're operating out of this this traumatic state, and it's affecting the way that they do relationship. It's for perfecting their perception and how they see and how they understand and how they perceive, and it's affecting the way that they lead. So the two people that need to have that conversation the most with is the parents and the church. How important it is to understand those who labor among you, to understand, and not just the good works, the giftings, the callings, the assignments, and the work that they were sent here to do, but understand the things that's in them that will hinder that work. And sometimes the things in them that's going to hinder the work is their traumatic experiences.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow,
And
this is so
and,
good.
and even if you don't, um, even if you're not equipped to deal with it, understand that it is a real thing in this life outside of demonic activity and demonic oppression, that there are life experiences that you need to have, or have a leg in the church, or someone you can um, um, partner with to help the congregants in your congregation, because trauma is real. And a lot of the church hurt, a lot of the church splits, and a lot of the things that you're seeing in the church is a result of unresolved trauma that the church is trying to demonize and not trying to deal with the experiences.
So let me ask you about the demonization real quick. Is it possible then
Mhm.
for us to redefine demonic oppression? So, and I think one of the one of the great job Satan has done is abstract words,
Yeah.
is make words so abstract, so unrelatable, so demon possession, so mysterious. That's the word I'm looking for. So mysterious that instead of, okay, if I break my arm, I'm sick.
Yeah.
And while I would love for the pastor to lay hands on me, my carcass is going to go to the hospital and put on a cast.
Right. Right.
My traumatic experience is a result of demonic, that stuff that you've been through, the stuff I've been through, the stuff you've been through, Kamala. Those are demonic experiences. It's a demonic to hear gunshots blazing around my head at night when I'm trying to sleep. So now, instead of trying to cast out that demon out of me, maybe yes, lay your hands on me, but then also provide me with a therapist to help me. So do you think it's valuable for us to redefine words and not make biblical languages so mysterious that we are separating what the realities of what's going on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think too, it's also important to understand I love the Holy Spirit, right? Because
Yes.
he's here to teach us all things. He's the spirit of truth. He will lead, guide, and direct us. He will help us to discern that which is spirit, that which is soul. He's just the best thing that we have here with us in the earth. And he can help us if we're really sensitive to him, to know that this this depression, let's say depression, that this depression is an imbalance of chemical
Yes.
that needs to be dealt with. This depression this depression is a byproduct of some experiences that this person has had, or this
Situational.
isn't right, situational, or this isn't a depression. This person is just having a depressed mood in this moment, right?
Yes.
So you have
Yes.
one thing with three different faces and three different things that this could be, but the work of the Holy Spirit can say, wait, hold on. You know what? This may be an imbalance. I may need to speak to this imbalance. I may need to speak to the serotonin and dopamine and this, that, whatever, you know what I mean? Or
Yes.
you may need medicine, because I'm not opposed to medicine, even as a
Yes.
believer. Whatever tool you need to get to optimal health, do that. Because if you had an asthma attack, you're not gonna pray, Lord. Well, you might pray, open
But
up
you're
my
gonna
lungs,
pray
my
with the
airways, but you
albuterol.
go, Lord, you know what I mean? You're going to do that. So in the same way, if it's the organ of the brain, I believe it's the same thing. You know, go get the medicine that you need for the organ of the brain to function like it's supposed to. But the work of Holy Spirit helps us discern that which, if this is a spiritual thing, if this is the spirit of depression and oppression, where the garments of praise need to lift this thing off of you, or if you're in a moment where you're just having a mood and it's, you know, a little mood, or if this thing is so deeply rooted in trauma that we got to pull back the layers, because even if we put on the garment of praise and we practice thanksgiving and gratitude and all of those things, if the root of it isn't the depression, if it's a traumatic experience, you're only dealing with a symptom that has a deeper root. So
I think
yes, it's
Jesus puts it
important.
this way: you cast out the demon, you leave the place empty. He goes back and gets 7 demons worse and come back, and it's worse than the first part.
That's why I believe deliverance ministry, and it's just my belief. That's why I believe deliverance ministry should be coupled with some type of soul care, aftercare, therapy, or something. Because you're right, I can cast out this thing, I can deal with this thing, but where's the aftercare to make, or the before care before we do deliverance? That teaching this person, okay, after we go through this process of deliverance and things like that, these are things that you're going to have to do. These are things you're going to have to keep in place. These are working. You see what I mean? This is the work that you're going to have to do to make sure that when this thing comes back, because it's going to come back and try you again, right? That it will see that this house is inhabited and well kept, and that you're doing the work to maintain so you won't be worse off than you were.
I get why my wife brought you on here, boy.
So,
Hallelujah.
so Ebony, this question has been floating in my head because I don't want us to get too far beyond where we had talked about this. But we talked about creating safe spaces
Yes.
and
yes,
who
I
we
did.
need to create safe spaces with. So I'm curious about 2 things. One, what are some things that trigger people that have been traumatized? And then what does a safe space look like for
that's
somebody who has been traumatized?
Good question. So when we come down, look, I'm getting all extra comfortable, getting
Yes, I love it.
Just Ebony, I just want you to know you have to come back because we're out of time almost.
Almost.
So please
Oh, Jesus.
There'll
please
be a part
plan
2.
on coming back. I'm begging you, okay?
Right. So when we deal with traumatic experiences, it affects 2 major core areas. It affects our safety and our value, right? We don't feel safe. Oh, I got balloons coming up. Wait, did I do that? Oh, it's picking up on my things. Is it? Sending
Oh,
love to everybody.
I love it.
That's an iPhone thing. Y'all must have an Android because iPhones are the best. But it affects, you know, two main areas: our safety and our value. Do we feel safe, and do we feel valued or loved or seen? Right. When any person that's experienced any type of traumatic event, anytime those 2 things are touched again, they will feel triggered, right? If they haven't reconciled a healed place of feeling safe or feeling valued or validated, you could say something to me that can make me feel invaluable, and I'm going to feel triggered. Let me give you an example, bring you into my life. And I'm working from a very healed place, right? Me and my husband's been married 18 years, been together 20 years. We were having a conversation maybe a month or so ago, and it was just a conversation we were having about preparing for emergency situations. And we were having a discussion about um, which way to start spending money in to prepare for hard times, right? Me being a wife and being a mother, I had some ideas about what I felt we should do, and him being a husband and protector, he had a totally different idea of what he felt should happen. In that conversation, I felt myself getting defensive. I'm like, why are you so? And we weren't arguing. Hear me, we weren't arguing. It was a very healthy, a very good conversation. We were just trying to come to a resolve about what to do. And in that conversation, I felt myself just my throat started doing this thing that I noticed it does. My shoulders got a little tense, and I started to talk at him instead of to him. And as we're talking, I'm like, girl, why are you doing this? What's going on? And so what after I got off, we finished the conversation. I got off, I was like, Ebony, why did you just start feeling? And I asked myself, say, Ebony, what did you feel? And in him not accepting what I said I wanted to do, I felt
Did you feel valid?
invalidated because of that part of me that struggled with value from my experiences, tried to ride that up.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I felt very invalidated. And in my invalidation, I felt unsafe. So I wasn't arguing with him, but I took a tone that said, listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I bring that up to say anything. It doesn't have to always be bad things. 'Cause we were having just a general conversation. It wasn't an ugly conversation or anything, but it can be the smallest thing to where that value and that safety, if it's
Yeah.
touched, if you don't feel valued in something or you don't feel safe, it can trigger you.
Yeah.
But you have to know that those were areas that you struggled, and be self-aware, practice that mindfulness. Because in that moment, if I had have not stopped and said, wait, what's going on with your throat, girl? Wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute. Your shoulder's getting a little tense. Wait
Intense.
a
Mm-hmm.
minute. You're taking that assertive tone with your husband when y'all having a good conversation. What is this? And I was like, wait, little Ebony didn't feel validated. Why did she come back up? What was, so anything that makes a person feel unsafe or invaluable can trigger them. And there's so many myriad of things that we can say, but in that moment, who would have thought a relationship
Yeah.
of 20 years would, in that small moment, felt invalidated and unsafe? So it
Mm-hmm.
can be anything, but the key is mindfulness. You
Awareness.
being mindful and being aware, yeah, like, okay, wait, something's going on with me. And then stop and say, wait, what's going on with me? Ebony, how do you feel? Oh, and just begin to inquire of yourself. So,
So that's a part of the work of maintaining that you talked about earlier.
mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm,
Ebony, I want for you to talk to the church for a second. Um,
mm-hmm,
One of the things that I've been trying to work on at my church
mm-hmm,
is we're nothing.
mm-hmm.
Oh, wretched man that I am.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so wicked. Oh, we're so undone. Could you please, for Christ's sake, talk to these knuckleheads and tell them that they're actually people who really do feel like they're nothing sitting in our congregations. They're
Yeah.
actually people who really do what they're trying to clothe in garb of
Mm-hmm.
humility is actually triggering people who sit in our congregations. So could you talk to us about the
Mm-hmm.
language of self-hate that we employ in the name
Yes.
of Jesus Christ?
Yes. In Genesis, he stated that he created us in his likeness and
Yes.
image.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? He created us with dominion and authority to rule and to be confident in the seated places that he's given us in the spirit realm and here in the natural, right? Of course, Adam fell, and he made it hard for all of us from our seat of authority. However, Jesus came back and restored us back
Hey!
to our rightful place of authority. And sometimes I think that we take the low, humble road, so we say, because we think that it is pleasing to God. But what pleases God is us to be self assured and confident and the Spirit of God that rests on the inside of us and the work that He's called us to do and the great things that He's called us to do, to be assured that when I lay hands that they're going to recover, that when I show up in spaces and places, when I come on KW Ministries to have a conversation about trauma, that I'm bringing some value to this platform, that I'm going to say something that's going to impact somebody's life or begin to draw them and pull them to God, that when I show up in places and spaces, that I'm confident, not arrogant, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
confident in the work that God has called and sent me here to do. And there is nothing wrong with me saying, I do this well, not in me, but who God created me to be. And I walk this thing out confidently from my
Mm-hmm.
seated place of authority in His likeness and His
Hey!
image, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And when people don't understand that, we take that low road. Oh, I'm nothing. And oh, yeah, I'm not nothing without him. But since he is in me, since I have accepted and his power is working in me, I am
Mm-hmm.
everything that
You
he
better say
called and
that.
created me to be, right? And I'm okay with saying that. And I'm not bragging, I'm not boasting. But when I show up, I know I bring value. I know I
Yes.
bring an experience. And I know that I'm going to bring glory to God, because it's not about me, it's about his glory being revealed and it's being rolled back onto him. So I'm confident and I'm okay with saying that. But when we take these low places to try to make ourselves appear something, it's actually hypocritical because we have that mask on, right? And we are insulting the people who are really struggling.
Yes.
Right? And I don't have to come down to where you are to make myself appear that I'm where you are to help you. Actually, me walking confidently, sharing my experiences, sharing my testimony with you of how I once where you was and how I'm boldly walking and moving in the things of God in a new phase and with a new mindset and regenerated mind and the mind of Christ and a new heart. That will bring more help and healing to them than me acting like I'm where you are. Because now you can see that I was where you are. I struggled really bad, and I can tell you my testimony because it's the word of our testimonies that's going to help the people be overcome and delivered by the word of our testimony. So I'm going to tell you my testimony. I was where you were. I was low and downtrodden, and there's places, even sometime a couple of years or months back now, I struggled in my mental health. But let me tell you now, let me show you the things I've done. Let me show you the work that God has did in me. Let me show you this. So now you can see me from a place of boldness that God has called us to, that now you can see that you can be here too. So I think it's very insulting when we take false humility when you really have people who are at a low place and struggling, when you can just be confident in who you are in love and show them in love that I once was where you are. But listen, there is freedom. There is deliverance. There is salvation from that place because I'm a witness. And let me help walk you to where I am. The only way I'm coming back is to get your hand and to walk you forward, but not to act as if I'm where you are.
Oh my
gosh. My next question is, when do I get you to come preach for me? That's my next question. My follow up to that is, when do we do the workshop? And my third is, where do I buy the book? So it's in that order. When do I get you to come preach for me? When do I get you to come do the workshop? And where do I buy the book? Those are the three next questions. Because that is just so imperative. And I love what she said, the appearance of, the hypocrisy of, because the truth is, if we felt like we were nothing, we wouldn't have on a suit and be up talking to nobody. That's the truth. We wouldn't want promotions on our jobs. And that's the truth. And there are actual people in our congregations who feel that way, who live that way. And when they look at us as leaders, describing ourselves, pretending, that's the language, her language, pretending, then what am I to aspire to? Where is their hope for me?
I think the piece that Ebony really brought out for me and everything that she said is that we do far more good by being able to share with somebody who is in that place that can say, man, you did it.
Right.
I see you came from that same place that I'm at now. It's possible for me.
Right.
There's hope.
There's hope.
Yeah.
And I want to say to the person who have not yet accepted Christ in your life, somebody might start with the fallenness of humanity. You don't have to start there. Humanity did not begin with sin. Humanity began, just like she said, with God creating us in his image. That's where humanity started. Black people didn't begin with slavery. We weren't slaves when we were in Africa. It's not a starting place. So you choose where you start your story. Ebony, we have to have you back. We have to have you back. So if you don't mind,
question about it.
If you don't mind coming back, and I'm mad at Kamala now because she has not introduced us personally, and she knows, unless she doesn't know this about you, this is needed. Let me try to attempt Mom's question real quick. So Paul says, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me?" Flesh this out. So one, wretched as a definition, lonely, miserable, confused, messed up. Nobody's not saying that we don't have those feelings. Nobody's not saying that we don't have those, and nobody's not saying. Paul says, "I'm the chief of all sinners." Nobody's not saying that. We're not saying that people can't feel that way, but we're saying it's not true. It's not true. You're not.
And I am are two different things.
I feel. Oh, that's powerful. Say that.
That's
again.
good.
I feel
That was good, wasn't
and
it?
I am are two different things. I feel wretched. I feel like the lowest of the low.
The chief of sinners.
I feel like I am the only one going through this. I feel like nobody understands. I feel like nobody hears me. That doesn't mean I am those things.
And the reality of it is completely different. And Christ proved that when you were so valuable that he came and died for you. Ebony, you get the last word, ma'am.
Wow, what do I want to say last? Two
Well,
things.
to be continued, not
To
last.
be continued, right?
Yes.
Know that you're not alone.
Yes.
Whomever you are, child, adolescent, adult, old person, you're not alone. That there's still significant value that you have to release in this earth. I don't care if you're 96 years old, there's wisdom in your loins that we still need, even if it's experiences that you have not overcome. If you look back and see how you could have did it different, that's value that you can still release into this earth realm. El Roi sees you. He has not forgotten you. He has not forsaken you. He is right there with you, waiting for you to just ask him and to invite him into where he already is with you. It is not God's desire for you to live broken, fractured, lower than, and in a false humility state. God has given you keys to life and authority and power that you can overcome these things by his power and his blood, that you may go out and help another generation. There are so many things that God has placed on the inside of you. And even to the leaders, I even speak to you. God, it is not God's desire that you operate from a fractured and broken state. It's not God's desire that you hide in your traumas and can't find a place of refuge. God also wants to heal you. Not only do God want to heal you, he wants to make you whole so that you won't be at home at night anxious and struggling and debating suicide while you're leading generations of people. God did not want you to operate in that space. So there is healing, there is hope, there is a person that God has for you. Even if you have been abused by leadership before, if therapists have taken advantage of you, if you have not found safety before, there is a place that God has for you. There is a person that God has for you to help you navigate through your traumas. You do not have to live that way. God does not intend for you to live that way. It is not his design for you to live that way. Healing and wholeness is his goal. Not only that he heals you, but he relieves you from the effects and of the experiences that you have experienced. So seek God, seek wholeness. He loves you. I love you. And I can't wait to see all that God has for you in your healed state.
This has been, well, if it's Monday Night Live, if it's Monday night, you're live with
KW and J.
Peace.
Woo!